Hello, hello. It's me. Remember this person? I am back at the Cranes lighthouses, back on that south side of Iceland. And the waves are really coming in because there's a boat. It was really quiet there for a minute. That's okay. It's a great sound. So the sun is out, the sky is blue, I am ecstatic, the wind is calm. Actually, I don't really even feel it at all. I'm like, yes, it's chilly this morning. It was 1 Celsius when I started the car. There was a layer of ice on all the windshield and windows, but a beautiful day, which I'm always grateful for here. And I thought that I would talk a little bit about the energy that I'm sensing and picking up on out here. I do that from time to time. It's like wherever I travel, I usually try to get a collective feel for what the energy is of that place as a whole. Because sometimes what happens is I ask myself, could I ever live there? You know, what is the collective consciousness of that area, and is it something that like how do I resonate with it, just out of curiosity? Well, I can tell you that when I was in Greece, the energy there was, I'm tired, I've worked really hard, and now I'm exhausted, so I'm gonna rest. That was the collective energy I felt in Greece, especially on some of the small islands, not necessarily in Athens, but the smaller islands. And then here, the energy that I feel is, if I don't, then I won't. And what I mean by that is, if I don't do what I feel that I've been conditioned to know or to think, then this and this won't happen. And it's an energy that's wrapped around false beliefs, around pure conditioning. And so what I see is these beautiful places that the locals don't always make time to go to or do, because I think they feel like they have to work. And I know that some of you might still be in that same mentality of, I have to do this in order to get that. But there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it. And it's a collective consciousness that is not going to last forever. It is not always going to be that way. It's been conditioned that way. And so much has been lost. So much truth, so much joy, so much calm. And our central nervous systems, fight or flight, immune systems, everything has suffered because of it. And I'm not going to get into a long old, drawn out speech about this. Because again, I just wanted to say, what do I sense about the energy here? And even though it's beautiful, there's so much to do. I know that I could never live here because of that collective consciousness. I would always pick up on it and sense it. And then I would run into it with the people that live here, because everybody that I've met so far, it's like they have a regimen. And if they don't stick to it, they're going to suffer. That's just what I pick up on, is suffering. It was so weird. I was at a guest house yesterday, and there was a dog that lived on the property. And the dog came up to my car as soon as I arrived. His ears were back. And you know I can read energy of anything. And I was just like, I'm picking up this dog is grieving. And I don't know what the dog was grieving, but I almost feel like it was the energy that it was absorbing in order to help its owners, you know, that the stress that they have, they were trying to build more and more and more guest cottages so that they could probably make more money in order to not have to work so hard. But this poor dog, I could just feel his grief in his energy field. And it just made my heart break. It just made my heart break. But anyway, it just makes me sad to pick up on such stressful energy, because this place does have a whole lot of potential for joy. And I'm sure it's there. Not everybody feels that. Again, I'm talking on a collective level. So anyway, well, again, thank you so much for watching me, for joining me on this journey. I have a few days left. I'm going to be very cautious about what I choose to do. I'm going to stick into one area here on the south side close to where I'll be flying out, so that everything goes smoothly. But what a ride it's been. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be posting the video from what I did yesterday. Unbelievable. What I put myself through yesterday was unbelievable. I'll just kind of give you a little bit about that. So yesterday was kind of like my day where I could do whatever I wanted. My spirit guides weren't like, you have to do this and this is what we need you to do and blah, blah, blah. So it was like my day. And I wanted to go and hike this. I didn't even know what it was. I asked somebody what their favorite thing to do and they were like, go to Glymur. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to Glymur. It's Glymur. And I had no clue really what to expect because I'm not that kind of person. I don't look everything up before I go. I don't like setting a false expectation. So I don't look it up. I just go. But I was smart enough to, again, because I've been lost already. Not doing that again. So I took my backpack, I took food, put water, my phone charged, my battery was charged up, and I even heard my spirit guides go take plenty of Kleenex. So I took like 3 packages of Kleenex. I had no idea how long this was going to take. All I knew was there was a waterfall there. But for some reason, I felt like it was more about the mountain around it. That was all I had to go by. Okay, so I'm driving and the signage out here to get to these places, like these places are amazing and wonderful, but their signs are like teeny, teeny, tiny. It's like you're going to this magnificent place, but there's no signage. So anyway, I'm like, I sure hope I'm going in the right direction. And I was following the GPS, but it doesn't always know what it's doing either. So let's just say it's been a challenge. But anyway, so I'm on a dirt road and I do end up in a parking lot where other people are. And I'm like, okay, this has to be it. I did find a sign that said Glymur. And so I get everything together and I set out on the trail. And there are people in front of me, people behind me. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to worry. The trail is just, again, more like a footpath. It's not necessarily manicured. There's a lot of nature around it, so it would be very easy to get off the trail. if you weren't following somebody that knew where they were going. So I always made sure I was like close to somebody in order to make sure that I was walking in the right direction. And I had no idea if when I walked in one direction, if I was going to turn around and walk back the same way or not. I had no idea. So I set out on this path, and it's winding through bushes and over rocks, of course, lots of rocks. And eventually everything was pretty copacetic until I got to a river. Well, a creek, maybe, that was flowing like a river. And people are taking their shoes off, and other people are like putting other shoes on, and I'm just like, oh, what did I not prepare for? Holy crud. There's a rope, there's part of a tree across it, some rocks, and you have to cross this thing. And I'm like, okay, water is cold as, yeah, but okay. So I take my shoes and my socks off, I roll my pants up, I attach my shoes to my backpack, and I set out on this thing to cross it. And the water was rigid. and you're trying to hold on to this rope while you're fighting the current of the water and the cold. Let's just say I kind of like spun at one point and went from this way to this way, and I'm sure everybody was like, oh, is she gonna fall? I did not, thank God. But anyway, so I make it across, and I'm just like, now I know why I have the Kleenex, because I'm using Kleenex to dry my feet off, right? Put my socks back on, put my shoes back on. Okay, let's hope that that's the only one. And then of course I'm sitting there thinking, but I probably have to cross it again when I come back. Okay, so I keep going, and it starts climbing more. There's like more climbing, and there's layers, and it's exhausting. It was a really long hike, and eventually I got to the point where I was so close with this other two couples that they didn't know each other either, but we all ended up sticking together, and I'm so grateful because they were two young couples, their first time, all four of them, their first time out here. And the one girl had the trail on her phone, so we were like following the trail via her phone to make sure we were going the right direction. But it was so nice having them around because it kept me motivated to keep going. Because when I started out, honestly, my spirit guide, I forgot to tell you this, my spirit guide was telling me, have fun with this. She said, don't rush, take your time, and just enjoy what you're doing. And I'm like, wonder why she's telling me that. But that's what she was telling me. Well, I could tell as the climb was getting, I say more dangerous, just because of the fact that you're on cliffs. You know, you're walking on a cliff that if you fall, you're not gonna make it. And so you got to be really cautious and careful. But having these other four people, we literally stuck together. We decided we were going together. And then at some point we kind of get up to this top place, and at that point I was like, you know what? I wonder if I'm done. I wonder if I'm close enough to this. And there was a waterfall, but it was more about the climb. And I wondered if I should just be like, okay, this is good, and turn around and go back. Well, the girl that had the thing on the phone, the trail on her phone, she was like, oh no, there's no going back. She was like, you're committed at this point. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, it's easier to go to finish than it is to go back down, because it was so steep and so, you know, sometimes you're using a rope to get you up and to get you down. It was intense. And she was like, she goes, I read the thing about the exit point. She goes, it's way easier to just finish and go out. And I was just like, and there was a part of me, a little bit of fear that went, oh my God, I'm committing to this. I am actually going all the way to the top of this waterfall. And it's the second tallest one in the whole island. So I'm like, I was a little worried. And of course I'm picking up on dead people the whole time. I had this one guy that wanted me to channel, and he'd had a heart attack, so I'm feeling heart attack pains, and I'm just like, this is not convenient. But anyway, I finally talked that guy into leaving so that I wouldn't feel that. So anyway, I get we get to this point where we're like at the top, and we realize we're above the waterfall at that point. Not even just like with it, we're above it. And I was like, oh my God, we're above the waterfall. And she's like, and the trail is on the other side. I'm like, then how do we get over? She's like, oh, we cross it. And I'm like, okay. So we go a little bit further, and there is now, I'm not kidding, it's a river. It's wide. It was maybe that deep. And it's just going. And you can see a group of people, and there's some people that, again, are taking their shoes off and they're trudging across this thing. You have other people that are taking one pair of shoes off and put another pair of shoes on because they were super prepared. And then you have other people that are just trying to find another way around because they're like, I'm not doing that. We saw it all. Oh my gosh. Well, we realized that the people were trying to go down to where the river was more narrow, it was deeper. So they were coming back. And then there was a guy that obviously knew what he was doing, because he looked at us and he goes, if you guys are going to cross barefoot, he goes, don't step on any rocks that have moss on them, you will slide. He goes, go for the pebbles. And he was like, and just keep going. You know, the water is cold, just keep going. And I went into mission mode. I was like, I'm doing this, you know, I'm not going back the way I came. There's no way in hell I'm going back the way that I came. We're doing this. Take my shoes off, take my socks off, tie them up. And the other 4 people are like, I guess we're doing this, you know, and so they start doing the same thing. And you will see in the video, I mean, I wish I had timed how long it took me to cross that river. It was cold. It was painful. Because the bottom, I mean, my feet were hurting so bad, but all I could do was just keep going, because they even told me after we got across, they were like, you were just like flying through the water. And I was like, I was bound and determined to just get to the bank. It was so painful. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was definitely in the top 5 of the hardest, dumbest things I ever did. Cause it just, it was brutal. It was brutal. But so worth it, because once we got to the other side, the rest of the hike down was like cake. It was so easy. And then we get to the point, like, where we had started, like where the car was parked. We get to the place where we realized that we went right because there was a sign that was like, Glymur, go this way. And it was like, if we had actually gone this way, we would have just walked straight up. It would have been so simple. But of course it wouldn't have been the same. You know, going through all the climbing and the ropes and the 2 rivers and all that kind of stuff is what made that hike that hike. What a day. Yeah. So I, of course, afterwards, I look at my, you know, I'm like looking at my spirit guide going, were you just like, did you wonder if I was actually going to be able to do this or not? She was like, nah, I knew you were going to be able to do it. She was like, once you're in mission mode, you just go. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. I do. I just go. But, But I'm looking, you know, at me, at my side. How am I? I don't know. How old am I? I'm 52, maybe. It wasn't easy. I was huffing and puffing. And of course, when you're sensing all the energy of all the people that are around you and all the demons that they have and having to banish them, it's like, you know, I can't do anything without working somewhat. I have to clear and cleanse the whole time just in order to feel like me when I'm going. But in the end, man, I tell you, that was an amazing day. So I hope you'll watch that video when I get it posted. Okay, I'm done talking. I talked forever. I'm sorry, but that was just what an interesting day that was yesterday. Okay, everyone. I don't know what else to say, but the fact that I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's winding down. So, okay, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.